Hello, hello.
Check. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you at least.
Nice. How are you guys on this fine Sunday?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Hello.
What's up, guys?
Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Hello.
I'll play music until everyone arrives. Has everyone got the agenda open?
Got some good music, Jeremy.
Thank you. I'm a big occasion not a fan. Like he somehow found the perfect blend of my favorite, like 80s and 90s house music and R&B. And he's like 15 or 18 years younger than me. It's horrifying.
I'm driving right now, so I might not be super responsive.
No worries, Kenny.
I'll post in general what I'm dealing with.
Doing some insurance stuff, right, Dennis?
Yes, sir. Just finished up with that one that I sent the video for. Now I'm headed to a house that burned down.
Oh, delightful. Well, I hope everyone's safe. Alrighty. If folks don't have the agenda open, I just posted the link in Parley text. So everyone should have that now. All right. Gonna trust that Griff has got it recording.
Yeah, it's streaming right now.
Normally does. All right. Okay. Highs and lows. Oof. I guess I go first. High point. I shipped a thing. I've been working for the last 3, 4, 6 weeks on delivering a 2-day, 6-hour deep dive into CBRS at the Wireless LAN Professionals Conference, part of my day job. So we did that, and it was pretty successful. So that was 40 people in a room learning about CBRS and private LTE. So day job win. Low point, flying in airports, still very much awful. Let's go next with high and low point.
I can go ahead and go ahead. So I'd say my high for the week, just working through homework, got a test grade back and did much better than I thought I did, especially because I thought I got a 0 on one of the problems on that homework or test assignment, and ended up getting full credit for it because I was the only person who did it right. The low is we're now into the nitty gritty of the semester. I only got 3 weeks left, so it's going to get real intense from here on out.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing good, man. Power to you.
I am doing well enough.
3 weeks to go.
I'll do my high and low before I start driving. High, we actually finished one of our hardware, which we've been excited about. And then low is we thought that we're done with bug testing, but how do you say, 99 problems, take one down, 150 pop up.
Bugs, they do have a habit of reappearing. I know Caleb's listen only, so he gets a pass.
Huh?
Caleb's listen only, he gets a pass. And anyone else got any highs and lows?
I can go. I can't think of a good low, but a good high. I just submitted a big proposal to go work at Fermi National Laboratory next year, so it's good to have that finished.
Awesome. What will that be working on?
What was that?
What will you be working on if it goes through?
Oh yeah, I'll be working with some people who do development for particle collider event simulators. We're working to integrate aspects of quantum simulation with the code itself. So computing stuff.
That sounds very cool. I muted you, Dennis. Sorry, there was background noise.
I guess I can go. Funny, Kenny's got more highs than lows. I feel like I had more lows than highs, but one of my highs was golfing on Friday with an old buddy that I hadn't seen in a long time. Definitely didn't have a low score though. Definitely that was pretty high still. My low, one of the producers I'm working with here in Los Angeles in the music industry, we just recorded 2 songs for my new record, and he called me freaking out because his hard drive failed. So it's currently getting recovered, hopefully, but there's about 2 weeks worth of work on my sessions on that hard drive. So that's a low. So fingers crossed, praying for that. Hopefully it's a high next week. We find out it's okay, but we'll see.
Well, we'll pray for the power of the nerds, the data recovery nerds. Adam's shaking his head. Be positive, sir.
I'm trying to think of a good high this week. I think for me it was as silly as it is. I got a free SSD from Micro Center, and that was my first time ever going to Micro Center, which is like a Fry's. If you've ever heard of Fry's, it's like a smaller version of that. It's an electronics store, kid and candy store type of place for our type of people. But yeah, I got a free drive there. Upgraded my computer's RAM with no errors or bugs. It just worked, which is always good.
Back it up. Back it up.
Facts.
Absolutely. Back it up. I think I put most everything in the cloud now. I know. All the offset guys are just going, shaking their heads at me. But fortunately, I don't do anything currently scary enough that would warrant anything else. Anyone else who are missing? Jess, you got a high and low? Okay, if not.
Sorry,
Cool.
I'm just trying to be offline for a minute. Sorry.
No worries.
I can go.
All right.
I
Axe.
had my parents come down to visit for the weekend and a couple days leading up to it. So that'd be my high. And I'll throw that there as my low also.
I think we all understand. All right. Let's get into it. Adam. Press release time.
Supposed to do a high and low too?
Oh yeah.
All right.
What do I think? Why did I think you'd already done one?
No, and I acquitted myself poorly while advocating for my children yesterday at their music school. I think my patience for the COVID mania has finally reached its breaking point, and I'm willing to acknowledge that I probably didn't treat everybody that I talked to with respect at the moment. But advocating only gets congratulations when you successfully have an outcome. Just self-expression is not advocacy. A high point. My kids made a little fake restaurant, and one of the menu items was the Ito, which is Doritos, Tostitos, Fritos, and Cheetos with a burrito and they play the song Despacito while they serve it to you.
Okay, well that's my new high for the week.
And in point of fact, the design, which was not what they executed since they did it at once, was a giant music box with different drawers with these items in it. But it was a model, it wasn't real. That would then play Despacito when they put it on your table, which I'm pretty sure that if that was anywhere, anyone would order it. And also, all those things are delicious.
Totally.
So it was really, I was on the floor.
I mean, people pay good money for music in a show.
Yeah.
I mean, music, food in a show.
Yeah. So
maybe their destiny is a Vegas restaurant.
Yeah. I hope they don't work in food service. I used to, and it's really hard. It's really hard.
It smells.
If you can remember the name of the dish by the time you get to the checkout, you get a 15% discount. I think it would do well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a music box on your table that plays Despacito while you eat Fritos and Tostitos, Cheetos
Right?
and a burrito. I mean,
it's good money you can charge for that.
Yeah, it's a winner.
It's a winner. I did have a question on I read through all the mining pool discussion, and that's the first item on the agenda, isn't it? No, I'm sorry.
No.
Go back. Sorry, go ahead with the item on the agenda.
Item on the agenda is the first one will be tomorrow, sending out the press release.
Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about is that world events seem to, I don't know. I've watched a lot of people in our space correctly trying to redirect in a way that's positive. It's kind of very difficult to do. I don't know. I don't know how other people feel about it. I have a bunch of, people that I'm close with that have family in Ukraine, and it's been a very difficult past few days.
Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff going on that I just think it's fine to not do it for a while and carrying on working on what we're working on. I don't think it does any harm to the mission to not announce our mission tomorrow.
Right.
That's my
It's like-
personal feeling. I think the possible risks of announcing our mission tomorrow are appearing incredibly insensitive, being incredibly insensitive. There's no real reason, I don't think, there's no big advantage to doing it right now. I don't think it's.
And it looks like we have a lot of work to do too, just to throw out there. Like, it's not like we should stop working. In fact, sometimes work can be a helpful distraction for me anyway.
For sure. And there's some work which Dennis will and I can probably talk about a little later, and Jess, which is relevant to some of the things that are happening, and it's on there as an agenda item. You know, we're here. We have our mission. There are some things happening that we can possibly help with, and I think we can talk about that later down the line. But in general, other council members, we've got Kenny, Dennis, Keith, Caleb here. I know Caleb, you can't talk today, but I think in general, I don't think the council would have a problem with that. But we'll confirm. We'll do a quick passive consensus message in the council channel. I think that's enough. Cool. Speaking of things we're working on, why don't I go here? Radio, wrong one. Open the handbook, Jeremy. We have started writing the Pirate Radio DAO handbook. Starts currently with the mission, as agreed to and passed by council recently. And then we go into structure. This one took a little while and has gone into more detail on sort of formalizing a lot of the discussion we've had about how we organize as a group. So I'd encourage everyone to sort of have a read through that. Work in progress to try to make it as clear as possible. So it's easy for people to understand how we work. The idea being that anyone, once they find out about us, can read this handbook and just understand how we operate as an organization and how they can get involved. Because those are the sort of, when anyone finds out about a DAO, those are the two questions that they have. So that's the goal of the handbook. Voyages, let's start and work on that one. And governance and operations, this is in draft right now, and this is part of a proposal which is under consideration by the council right now. Obviously, governance goes into some pretty gnarly areas about how we decide to do things. So again, would encourage everyone to have a look at that and just familiarize themselves if you've got any questions. This is something that the council is dealing with right now, and it's about to, or should be, voting on pretty much today or tomorrow. I think it's coming up on 7 days. Any questions on the handbook? Any feedback currently?
Once we get the handbook finalized, is there going to be a process in play where we like continually refine it or add to it or like review it? Like maybe we could come up with a schedule. That way we can continue to evolve.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me just add so probably
And then also I was going to add if there's any specific sections that you need help with or that that aren't covered. Any of you and
Yeah.
Prof been working on it?
Prof started working on Voyages, I think. But yes, that one, and I think you're already working with him on that anyway. And kind of on sort of some of those things. So yeah, if you guys could pick up that would be fantastic. I've kind of burned a little bit after writing structure and reviewing the governance and operations one. My brain is a little mushy. It needs a rest for a week in writing those things. Saying that, I'll probably do some more tomorrow because I'm crazy. And I hate myself.
Can I ask a question in terms of how the feedback loop is supposed to work in when, like, let's say you write something, do you want it like comments with edits on it? Like how what's the form and format for the iterations? Like on the Google Doc, you make comments or you rewrite as suggestions or?
So when it comes to the governance one, that's on the Google Docs.
Got it.
Those are open for comments. So the V1, V2, those ones that are under proposal, which will become more. The structure one, if I would say there's been comments in the growth and community channel previously. Keith has made comments before about the diagram and been some helpful feedback about, helpful questions about certain aspects of what things mean that I've clarified. So yeah, I would say anything that's sort of under proposal in the forums, and then and on the actual documents that it relates to, and then anything that's just in the handbook is in the growth and community channel.
Okay.
Assuming that growth and community continue, is the ship that takes care of things like pirateRadioDAO.com, WordPress, things like that, which it kind of is already. So. And it may be new to some folks that we have pirateRadioDAO.com. And that is run on WordPress. If anyone wants to contribute, wants to write posts, this will become a resource where we'll publish all kinds of content for the community, hopefully. So everything from council decisions to, how to mount an antenna. There's no reason why all those things couldn't be on there.
Just a quick side question. Did somebody else register pirateradio.dao? I looked it up and it wasn't available.
I think Jess maybe got that.
Yeah, it was
or
That was
Dennis.
It was taken.
Sure.
Got it.
But yeah, it's about it. It was someone from the crew anyway. I'm pretty sure.
It was me.
So yeah, that's where we're at with the handbook. Is there anything else that anyone feels that we're missing from there that people would need to know in their first sort of, they found out about us, they want to know what we're about, because sort of blinded by being so close to it.
Yeah, I think we'll want a community participation. How to get involved.
Yeah.
Like, what's that process look like for somebody who wants to do something?
Yep. How to get involved page. So you know what happens when you suggest that these things get written. All right. Okay. That's good. So if anyone else ever has any feedback on that, hit the shipyards in the Discord, and ping us in there, and that's where sort of things that we're working on, general chat, start a thread or ping any of us who are on the growth community team. Okay. Anything else on Handbook? All right. So, Adam, do you want to give a quick rundown from Wednesday, Mothership Council meeting?
I am unmuted. Jeez. Yeah. Well, one of the things that we covered on Wednesday here, I'll pull up my notes. So one of the things that we talked about on Wednesday was that Keith asked, not the Keith that's in here, but a different Keith, asked the question of why would someone join the Pirate Radio DAO instead of simply raising the funds for their own locations, providing the labor themselves, and keep all the profits for themselves. And I thought his question was a good one, especially as we're thinking about the tokenomics, which was why I wanted to hit that issue. Because I understand 0% of what everybody is writing. So I'm hoping that somebody can explain it to me because I don't get it. But his question is valid because it brings about the question of the value proposition of this endeavor. So what is the reason to propose a voyage where you're pooling resources, and how are we answering that? I'm assuming, and I'm saying I'm assuming this, through tokenomics. Anyone want to take a stab at it?
Do you have that written down on here? I'm sorry, I'm really visual. Or if you can repeat it again.
Sure. The question that was asked on Wednesday, which is really a question around value proposition, what is the value of the DAO and why, was really simply put, why would I, if I am a capable deployer of these resources, this hardware, why would I as an individual join the DAO and throw my lot in with it? Like, what is the advantage?
Sure.
Instead of, his example was like he's got a little forest preserve by him that he wants to install a ring of these, miners around to make money on. Why is that guy coming to the DAO, that person, that entity, and what is the value proposition, and how does it feed into the proposal around tokenomics? Meaning, is there a way to easily articulate the value proposition to recruit people to join or propose a voyage on the DAO?
So isn't the main idea to bring underutilized resources into the hands of people who can use them? Because it kind of seems like you're presupposing that able to find these places to install and everyone is capable of installing. Is that what we're working with right now? Is assuming, like, why would people in that position come to the DAO, or why would anybody in general come to the DAO?
Well, one of the rules that I think is a good one to have in general is we have a number of different, let's just for the sake of this conversation call them customers, even though they aren't. The prospective members, the goal is, as I understand it, to try and widen the availability and usage of this network, right? Like that's as I understand it, what the mission is built around. A specific person with 30 miners who could bring a ton of value to the pool. What is the value proposition for them? How do I articulate why they should be voyaging on the Pirate Radio DAO? What is the incentive structure for them? I'm not presupposing other customers that way. That's
yeah. I mean, there may not be for them.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's my thought too. It's not for everybody, right? It's for people who have an underutilized resource to connect them with people who can use it, right? So if I have a bunch of locations but no hotspots, and some other person has a bunch of hotspots but no locations, you can bring them together and say, okay, we can join you up, and you can both make a killing doing this.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
wonderful.
the idea is that over time there will be different kinds of mining pools that address different kinds of needs. So, the light hotspot mining pools is not about redistributing underutilized resource. That's about effectively using new resource and extending the network, using a newly available piece of technology on the network in the same way as it's just a new piece of hardware that we're taking advantage of, and it allows us to craft a pool from scratch and gives us a lot more flexibility with a shared wallet, and no one has to transfer ownership of hotspots because they're already owned by the DAO. But
So then-
that was not the original idea. The original idea was we take poorly utilized assets from somewhere like New York or wherever else and move them to somewhere where they weren't being utilized. And that still should be a goal, but that one's much harder to do because the friction is shared wallets, transferring asset ownership, blah, 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 blah. You start getting issues with this, it gets knotty. So I think the answer is for Keith, there may not be a pool for him. And if he wants to make one for his forest, like that, my response to sort of commercial operators is, I think you should use our systems to create pools to make your pools even bigger. Like, do what you do already, that you have 20, 50, 100 at a time going out, and make it 500 or 1,000 or 5,000.
And then the second, so really what the value proposition that is being articulated to draw people into this would be, I've got a location but no miner. I've got peanut butter, no jelly. So like that approach, I have, like for me, I have locations, no miners. I have process, like I can help you. My contribution would be I could actually help outline a development process for anybody that they could just download. And then in exchange, I'm getting a piece of a mining pool, assuming we get through the technical issues associated with that, which I know is substantial and not a given.
Yeah. Basically. Okay. And it's de-risking. So instead of just relying on your one miner,
of course,
and it's one location producing what it produces, your risk is spread out across however many miners there are in the pool and their location and their.
One of the things I read in the Pollen Mobile white paper, which is worth a read because they tried to solve this issue of individual incentive structures, is that the first miner in a hex that they need covered receives a higher bounty for projecting for 30 straight days with no, negative network effects. And they get a premium giveaway of tokens for grabbing that first and being there. So that way there's no disincentive. Like there's an incentive around speed, and then there's also a reward that is permanent. Not in terms of what they get in mining rewards. They got like credits toward purchasing data, which is part of the Pollen network. It's different incentive structure, but the point is that if you want these things in other places, providing you can get around the technical challenges of shared walleting, which we're going to discuss, that incenting people to move their units with a guaranteed reward of some kind is one of the ways that Pollen solved that problem.
Yeah. And I would expect if, there's places where people want to extend coverage, you'd start seeing bounties.
Right. So that would be a reason for Keith to be involved, because if Keith says, I've got this ring and I put 100 here, but like it's led to this data offshoot tributary that I need covered now, I didn't realize, and I'm out of miners, can the Pirate Radio DAO help? Well, sure, if you're going to pool some of it in, right? So like a collectivism there. But that's in the future.
Yeah. But, in answer to his question, not always.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I mean, no, but that's a fair thing. When you're articulating who you want to be in and out, it's important to say what you do or don't want. If this doesn't apply to him, that's okay to say. You have different goals. That's okay.
And I think, but like I said, response to sort of anyone on the commercial side is there's absolutely no reason why you, as a member of the crew, can't propose a pool. Go for it. Like, no reason. And grow use the DAO to grow your existing.
Yeah. And we covered the other two things you guys just mentioned as an offshoot of this discussion. So we talked about that one of the use cases here was taking underutilized miners from elsewhere and relocating them to areas where there are no coverage, just like everybody just mentioned. And then that got into a discussion around the challenges of multi-sig wallets and shared pools, which leads us to where we are right now.
Yeah. And this one, which is next on our list, the distributed mining model.
Yes.
Which this is Keith's graphic, I think. So I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, it's really just my notes. I was thinking through the problems that we were facing, and the concerns for me that were the most important were the financial aspects. Like how do we run a pool without it ending up getting us in the wrong direction in terms of like financial services, things like that. And then basically was thinking about this other problem, which is that when you set up a miner, you set up your hardware wallet, you get your 12 words and you write them down, and you don't ever share those with anybody ever again. And there's no way to do like a shared pool or a shared control where we or somebody or a smart contract could take control over your wallet because you own the seed. So there's no way to like do that. And so the solution would simply be to have somebody be there physically. Your phone gets handed over to this somebody who types in or who records the words and then submits the transaction through some platform. And then this basically confirms the location is ready to go. It ensures that the seed phrase is protected, so that the person who has the hardware, who now has the hardware at their house, does not have the phrase to really do anything with their wallet. They can still access their wallet through their Helium app on their phone, but if our platform is doing what I suspect it would do, it's constantly emptying that wallet. As soon as any money is generated, or AGT is generated, it's emptying that wallet to some smart contract, another wallet controlled by a smart contract. So the idea here is that the miners themselves, the hardware, and there's a lot of different ways to solve the actual problems that come up with this, but the miner itself can be owned by Pirate Radio DAO. So there's the potential to say, okay, we own all the hardware. It's not a problem, but it does centralize. And what we're trying to do is solve these kind of problems in decentralized ways. So there is another option where, and I didn't think of this until Prof. What's his name? Is it? I keep forgetting his name. But anyway, he shared.
You're on mute there.
Everyone just calls him TK, but it's Tanuka.
TK. Yeah, TK. But anyway, he said something suggesting like a smart contract, and I thought, well, why can't the miner just be owned by the smart contract? Right? So somehow our platform would then have to take in the 12 words that the host manager collects and put those 12 words into like some kind of contract, I don't know, that creates a wallet. I'm not really sure. There's like a lot of technical like problem solving that will have to occur in order for us to solve that, but it's solvable, I'm sure. So in other words, the miner is now controlled along with the seed phrase by a smart contract. And so that could minimize that centrality issue that happens when we own all the hardware. We could start by owning all the hardware and that creating a contract that it releases us from liability if it's damaged, blah, 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 blah. It's not that hard. Business has been doing that for a long time. So we could start that way. And it would be a way to like launch it without solving some of the more difficult technical problems that will probably require funding and really smart developers and teams. So I think it's possible to sort of bootstrap this idea in a minimally viable way that protects us sort of legally, and accomplishes this the goals. I think there are still several small issues that not issues but questions that remain that we'll have to answer and figure out. But overall, I think it does solve the challenges that have prevented us from jumping on this initial idea that we had in the first place.
So can you summarize step 1, step 2, step 3, like as concisely as possible?
Well,
I am XYZ person in New York. I'm in a hex with 36 other people. I want to join the DAO. What do I do next?
What you're really asking isn't if you want to join the DAO, but rather if you want to join this specific, or if you want to join like this specific pool in your community, right? That you find out is being run.
You and 10 of your friends all notice. Shoot, we're in the Helium Discord.
Yeah,
we all
there you
chat
go.
with each other. Yeah,
Yeah.
and when there's 10 miners, we're gonna move them to Detroit. We're in. What happens
Well,
next?
I think the idea is first that this would be a decentralized system, so it would be your location is exactly where we would want you to be, and we want you to find other miners in your area, not necessarily shipping miners from overseas, but that could happen, right? Or from like wherever, like you could be shipping miners all over the place. But I think ideally keeping it in a community would make the most sense, like geographically. And so like you and your 10 friends are like, yep, we noticed this, and hey, there's this pirate radio platform that could help us solve this problem. So let's sign up with that. And so that's the black box portion that we will have to design that platform that enables those 10 people to go on that platform, maybe through a sign up link, through like similar to, you think of like a shared Chipotle order, right? So maybe some similar to like that kind of function, but you all go on there, you stake everything, and now you've started a community pool, and now other people can join that pool, and you'd want to, because 10 isn't really enough to make a significant difference, more than likely, and you're going to want to attract more people in your community. So you maybe share that out or something, and other people find out about that specific pool. Yeah, I want to contribute because I'm in that area. And so now you've got your community pool. One of those people of the 10, I would assume, or somebody in that group of initial 10 would go to the Pirate Radio DAO and say, hey, we'd love to start a pool in this area, or maybe they just sign up on the platform. I'm not 100% sure, but they simply sign up to be to delegate a host manager. So maybe their group all votes for that one person and says, yep, we want that person to be our community host manager. Now that person has a real responsibility and will be actually compensated for physically scheduling and going out and meeting up and making sure that these miners that are being moved are getting brought to the right locations. So they literally go drive to a location who's staking a miner and pick that up. Or if they're getting one shipped from the Pirate Radio DAO, we mail it to them, and then they have to go take that miner to the location. And now once they're at the location, there's a couple ways that we can protect ourselves from gaming. So I really just call this stuff because I thought it was kind of funny and in line with the community, like proof of equipment and proof of install. Really just nonsense. But what that really means is like, hey, we could say like, if you're the pool manager, when you show up, you have to validate that they actually have all the equipment they will need to install it. So checkbox, antenna is there, correct. Cable correct length is there, check. So whatever we deem necessary to say like, okay, you're really going to install this, that kind of proves intent. So you call it proof of intent, I guess. And then
they're verifying the bill of materials.
That's it, yeah. And then proof of install would simply be maybe you've hired somebody from Pirate Radio DAO installer group, Voyage, to come out and install it, and you've got your paid receipt or scheduled date or whatever, right? There's a lot of different ways to do that.
Then there's an
I think the
Yeah,
one
there's
thing to understand with this one, this proposal, Adam, is this is not a redistribution pool. This is a brand new hotspot, light hotspot.
The easiest way
like
for me
grind up
to
pool.
Yeah, the easiest way for me to like simplify it is that this is really facilitating, right? It's not really a pool, like in a financial legal structure, there's no pool there. But in terms of generally what it accomplishes is a distribution of all of the assets that are created from us working together. And so that's what it essentially accomplishes without having to create a real mining pool.
It's a pool construction platform. So
Yeah.
you and someone in Wyoming could be like, I want to start a pool, but I don't want to start a whole company.
Yep. So imagine jumping
someone in France could do it. Anyone could do it. It's the structure that's required to start a pool. We own the miners, and we obviously, take a percentage. But instead of a typical commercial organization that would take the lion's share, we'll take
a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that how the money would flow, or the crypto rewards would flow? It goes from the miners to the DAO, or does it go from the DAO to the miners?
Miners to the DAO to the pool. The pool distributes. So the miners are owned by the DAO. So the miners come in. The miners generate the HNT. HNT comes into the DAO. The DAO distributes it as per the smart contract to the tokens in the pool.
Okay. So if we're distributing HNT across state lines, then that qualifies as a money transmit. And so then I'm just checking boxes for when we do sync up with Jonathan. So that's if it's going
just
that
in KYC, yeah.
Right. So that's why I was asking. Hold on 1 second.
That's fine. But yeah, I mean, the reason for looking at these was obviously redistributing is difficult because you've got to potentially deal with ownership of the hotspot because whoever owns it decides where the HNT goes. There is no shared wallet mechanism other than CLI right now for HNT, and that's very basic. So, there's a lot of technical things to overcome. Building a platform that operates and manages pools, we need anyway. Low friction way to start getting pools and start generating revenue and bootstrap something is these light hotspots. They're $200 each. We partner with a vendor. We're going to be buying them in bulk at exceptionally low rates. The whole point of everyone coming together, so the community has access to things that they don't normally have, which is preferential discounts, the ability to buy at scale, all of the things that they should be able to benefit from through collective action. So I think it falls squarely into the mission. I think it's pretty elegant, and it gets us some early movement. Pretty cool, I think, and gets a lot of the things that we need down the line built.
Additional benefit.
For whatever it's worth, if there's a grant program that somebody wants me to write something for, this is pretty easy to write up. I'm sure we can get funding. If we went far enough on it in terms of legal entity setup, I don't know because I haven't tried to pitch it, but I'd be shocked if I couldn't do a small raise off this.
Fantastic. I tell you this, that when I was thinking of this, and put this together and realized we can do this, we can make it work. I thought to myself, if I do such a terrible job of like explaining this that nobody like gets it, I am going to probably drop out of Pirate Radio DAO and create this and then partner with them at some point in the future. So that was my plan.
Yeah, I think the important thing to focus on is what are the, like, for this minimum viable product business, what is the, who care, like, put all the limitations out there that are existing based on the system that we have, and then identify all the places where we can use this as an opportunity to reiterate and then grow and learn. Yeah, like if as we've heard me say a bunch of times, if the first thing you put out isn't embarrassing 6 months later, then you waited too long to put it out. And this is not even embarrassing. So
Also,
like,
this could be self-funding.
right. It could. It could. How are you going to do the purchasing?
We need
of
some
the
money to. Yeah, we need. Yeah. Don't worry.
Cold start-
There's.
right.
We've got to put some money down, but yeah, there's no reason not to go and get some grant money. No,
There's got to be $100,000 out there. Capital is just too easy to. I mean, I could get it from a stupid idea. So this isn't a stupid idea, is what I keep saying.
There's way more stupid ideas out there.
Yes, I've gotten
me, yeah, help me put together the grant proposal and whatever you need from me to help with that. You got it.
Yeah, I don't know where. This is one of those things where I don't know where I'm supposed to be looking to peruse grant proposals. So if somebody wants to just spam links into the general of where I should start digging through, then I can figure out. Like, I know TK knew some.
Hang on a second. We can.
I mean, when I talk to Paulin next week, I'm gonna ask them if they want to fund pirate radio. I mean, it's anybody who has money. I'm just asking them if they want to fund radio.
I mean, we might get one of the vendors might throw in some money. There's all kinds of people out there who are.
Again, then they can get a share of the rewards if that's what they want. They're in the same position we are. They're better off.
Yeah.
They don't have to.
I posted a link to the DY grants folder on GitHub, Adam, just so you got a reference for the helium grants.
Thanks.
But yeah, I mean, don't limit it to that. It could be Gitcoin, could be anything. It's any of the funds out there that supporting DAO growth that's doing work like this.
How much?
Fair game.
Just off your top of your head, if you're ordering 100 light hotspots, like what's the cost of something like that?
I don't know, Dennis.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. Yeah, I was muted earlier.
I got it on mute.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I was serving muted for a while, so I have a chat with Anne from Bobcat this week. I'll ask her.
Okay,
but yeah,
great.
In general, the vendors are pretty keen to help, and there's a lot more of them now, which is always good to know.
Yeah, I'll ask her because, like Jeremy was saying earlier, we do have something that we wanted to talk about, but we're gonna ask her about that. And last time I spoke to her, she's very interested in the DAO, and they said they're willing to help.
Cool.
A question with regards to maybe it's a bit more detail down the line, but the location aspect. What are the early discussions on how we're going to try to attain the maximize the location, and is it going to be like an application model where a possible person that thinks they have a great location would apply, or do we have internal resources to not fund, but to find and resource?
Good question. Location is one of those areas that I would say in a pool, if someone wants to stake a location, you would take applications, right? I would want to see applications, and it would be the job of whoever is promoting the pool to try and get as many good ones as possible, right? So if you're the local captain of a pool, it's going up in, I don't know, Palm Springs or the surrounds, that it would be, there might be areas where you're like, well, I'm going to fly that neighborhood because I want those folks to be, pitching me locations. That's what it's going to come down to, is you're going to select, right, as the, you're going to select for premium locations. So pick and choose if you can. But
I mean, how pirate do we want to get? Like, if we identify some locations as a team, do we explore like, putting little QR codes or, something on a door that says, follow the rabbit hole, and then they discover that,
Yeah.
hey, you've been identified as like a location for pirate radio. Are you interested?
100%.
Did you accept
Yeah.
this mission, kind of thing?
Absolutely.
Cool, cool.
I think there's a real value in the twisting on the branding to acquire locations, especially because it's a way of connecting people to Web3 without having to deal with, frankly, the absolute terrible user experience that is Web3 in reality when you're in it.
Right.
So I think it's easy to say,
Mhm.
hey, I want to join this, and then it becomes an access point where maybe they have somebody else they know who can join the pool. You got like an MLM kind of vibe
Yeah.
to it that really works in a positive way.
I mean, for some people, it could be just as simple as this stuff will be enough to pay for your internet, or will pay for your internet.
Until Comcast or Xfinity realize that we're reselling their bandwidth and terminates all of these agreements.
They're gonna have
an idea in here. So on location discovery, I think we've got 100 different things we can do on sort of the marketing side of things, on QR codes, sending people emails, sending people mail, whatever that looks like. For actual location discovery and getting smart about how we target those areas, boots on the ground is not going to be the most effective way to do that. Something I do in my day-to-day is work with data, and that can be everything from topographical maps to census information on who lives where. In my mind, something that kind of makes sense right off the bat is, why don't we pull in topographical maps? We could do it for the whole nation if we wanted to. So we understand right away where the high points and low points are. Just generally speaking, elevation is going to be key for our location identification. Pull that in, connect it to the Helium API so we know where miners already exist. If we really want to get to it, we can get it. Pull in transmit scale data, all that kind of fun stuff. Overlay that on top of the topographical map, and we can immediately identify underserved areas where we have high elevation and low miner counts. Pull in census information, we can identify addresses and names of people who live in those areas. And if we want to get some grant money to send out emails or send out mail to those locations, we immediately have a contact list of everybody that we should be reaching out to in those spaces. In my sort of day-to-day, we do that for telco, actually, and it's been really successful for different programs in identifying key pieces or key people that we want to contact. Something like that might actually bring our cost of acquisition for a host or for a location from a very high point to a very low point. Obviously, the marketing material that we put out to those spaces would be super important, and maybe somebody else can put something like that together. But if we do want to do some targeting based on elevation and population, all that kind of fun stuff, that's something that I love to do.
I think that's an outstanding idea. The one thing that I thought of about this that reminds me of what you're talking about, having also worked in telecom, is that it's kind of like a reverse DirecTV. Like I'm saying to you, I want to put this small, very minimal thing on your roof, and in exchange, you get free internet or $20 off your internet, whatever the thing is, but you don't have to do anything. So it's easier than when I was selling cell sites on rooftops, because that is, it's taking up your whole damn roof. It's like a 200 amp breaker. It's a total pain. So I like that idea a lot. You can get real wide.
If we want to get even more targeted and look at what are the population groups that are the most likely to want to put up as a host or be a location, it's going to be low income areas. So why don't we layer census income information on top of that? And now we can look at, and I mean, we're looking at enormous spaces. So when we filter down to the very specifics of what we want, you're still going to have an enormous list of people to contact. But we could look at low income areas with high elevation and low miner counts. I'm going to assume that those areas will already have low miner counts because there's probably a correlation in income to high miner acquisitions. But just, the more filters we want to throw on there, that data is out there. And I love doing that stuff. So yeah, I think there's a million different things we could do, but maybe that's a good starting point.
So with the platform, I really love that because that would all essentially eventually be all pulled in to automation to where you could essentially identify or rank a location who submits an application. They're ranked, they're submitted. Maybe they submit pictures, and a local the local pool person has to like check those off, or something in the back end of the platform. Like maybe that's part of the management of doing that. That way we could automate like as much as that as possible, because that is going to be a challenge. Is going to be identifying whether or not said location is actually going to be a good spot. Because even if they've got a great location and right next to it it's super low, there's like a hill, right next to it, and it's blocking that signal in a certain direction. So there's just a lot that comes into play that could be complicated.
Yeah, I don't know how much you guys want to get into the nitty gritty, but I think a lot of that stuff can be automated on workflows where an address is submitted. It runs through all of the checks. There's a lot of cool tools out there for things like ArcGIS, which we might need to get licenses for, that let us plug in. If this location's a pass, we can automatically have it prescribed a pass and go to the human check only after a certain number of filters are met. Those filters can really include anything that we want if we're putting things into a mapping system and overlaying data points. Like you're talking about a hill being in the way. I mean, we can pull in data from Helium, have those locations plotted on the same map, and say, realistically, including elevation of surrounding objects, how many hotspots will this be able to reach with what types of equipment? And as long as our form for the host, the potential host or the potential pool, is detailed enough, we can automate pretty much everything right down to the point of this is a pass or a fail. If it's a pass, then it goes to a human check with photos. And I think something like that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's really, we can automate pretty much anything as long as the data is available. And in this space, there's more data available than we'll ever be able to utilize. So I think there's a lot of really cool stuff there.
It should definitely be in the. It should definitely be in the proposal.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just what you just said. I could use if you wrote that up in like a rough Google Doc, whatever. I mean, I could sell that right now to telco companies.
I mean, one of the things I was going to say, and one of the one of the apps that we always recommend, 5G CBRS channel, is something called NetCell Info Lite. It's an American company, M2 Catalyst. I've gotten contact with their CEO. They have a full database from all of the people using this of coverage of everyone's networks, global. And they've been trying to sell it to telcos, and no one's biting.
Hold
what's the name of it again? Say it again.
Network Cell Info. And the company who makes it is called M2 Catalyst LLC. So basically, it's an Android app, sits on phones, and pretty much everyone I know in the cell space uses it to look at cell coverage and measure networks. It's their first quick tool. It's $2, the pro version. But it's gathering data on everyone's networks in the background. They've got a great data set, apparently. And it made me think that actually one of our, you could call it a pool, you could call it a voyage, whatever it is, but giving the community access to things like ArcGIS data licenses, individually, we can't buy them. Individually, access to that data set is cripplingly expensive. But as a group, if we said, okay, as a community, we would have to pay X to get access to this data for a year and then use it to build these pools. If you want to join the Pirate Radio DAO, the membership fee for this year is X, but it gets you access to all of these tools.
So just a quick a thought, because the hosting thing could go in kind of two directions, at least that filter system I was talking about. The data set that you're talking about, I've used that on an app, but I was unaware that they sold that information as well. If they have that available on an API, we can plug it into ArcGIS along with everything else, and now we have a 5G filter as well. So that opens up 5G pools for identification of locations. That just becomes an additional filter for, do we want to propose this location or does this host pass for 5G? And that actually might have a lot of value to other organizations if the DAO wants to sell its own tools outside of the group. There could be a whole pool dedicated to our tools being available outside of the community, even to enterprises or organizations, or those organizations leasing those tools or access to those tools we build from the organization for their own purposes, whatever that looks like. But yeah, I think the 5G application there would be an awesome branch.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't be a services DAO selling services back to professional organizations. The idea is that, if we can self-directed build better tools that they can build in a centralized model, then and they decide they want to buy them back, great, or buy access to them, brilliant. The whole idea is that we don't receive the full value of our work in general working for centralized organizations. If we together build better tools, then we get the full value of them by sharing in that. So yeah, absolutely, very exciting. I love this idea, but yeah, I think it plays into a lot of what we're trying to do with the mission. So 100% yes. Excellent, very cool.
I agree.
I'll
Question.
Hey TK.
Yeah, I'm sorry, like I was late, like so happy to see everyone. Okay, one question. So I think I missed like whole chunk of like discussion you guys were having since I joined in late. One thing now, since we like you guys were like terming it as pools, like is this like a structure where people would be pooling in to fund this effort, and then from the selling of like these services, that's how the redistribution of like the returns happen? Or what's like the like what's the cash coming in and cash going out? I'm sorry, I think I lost like a whole chunk of this, that's why I'm like asking the question.
Yeah, I think it was more of a tool set to use with creation of the pools that we would build, that we would go get funding to build, and it would generate revenue, and there's no reason why we couldn't sell its services or sell access to that tool to other people, and it would create more revenue.
I see. Sounds good.
Did I get that right, everyone?
I have a question about it. You said sell access to that tool. My thought was that it would end up being like a sort of open source distributed platform that is like not controlled by anybody and completely open. And so what we discussed, TK, one of the big pieces was Pirate Radio DAO would control the hardware miners and maybe be able to generate some revenue off of that. As well, actually, we would be generating fees from basically leasing those miners to every location. So every single miner that exists on the platform, at least from the start, we would be getting lease fees. Ideally, in the future, in my mind, we are just one supplier of a countless number of suppliers that can jump on the bandwagon and lease their miners to this marketplace.
Yeah, I think it wasn't associated so much directly with the miners and open sourcing. So the structure of how you would create miner pools, yeah, that tooling, that is the DAOs, and people can use it and fork it and whatever else. But when it comes to software tooling that the DAO creates, that the DAO owns the IP to, that uses licensed and paid for data sources, you can't open source that. And wouldn't and shouldn't, and should become a shared resource and revenue generating
that could be like a paid
tool for the paid access to, but at the idea being is that Pirate Radio members of the DAO get preferential access to it, and commercial entities get access to an amazing tool that we built, but they pay commercial rates. And members who would otherwise not have access to anything like this at all, because individuals just don't have access to these kinds of tools, they're for telcos only. There's nothing built for individual. This new kind of decentralized operator, the tools don't exist. It's $100,000 a year license or nothing. When you get up to those kind of things, we're talking about $5 a year and you can use it,
Like
Man.
for this one, like what Keaton mentioned, like we can do both ways. Like like Jeremy said, like we give the free access to all the members, like and at the same time, if a company want to use the tool because it is so good, enterprise access, boom, like there we go, done. Like everyone is happy. The individual who is like doing it from their like like mom's house or something. Okay, good, they have access, but at the same time, like multi-million-dollar company, they can use it as well. But they, since they are multi-million-dollar company, purchase the enterprise license. Yes, one more question. Did you guys already go through like the mining pools and everything? If you guys already went through it, I wouldn't like I'll just, yeah, we'll talk next.
We went through the distributed mining model, but there's if there's anything you wanted to add, because it was originally your idea.
No, like the thing I was mentioning is so like everyone is like sound with the idea, right? Like does anyone have like any additions or something like that?
And I think if probably from your point of view, because it was originally your original idea, if you just give a quick highlight of what was the problem you were trying to solve and how how the pool will work, what and how it solves the problem, just to give that sort of high level intro, it's probably helpful. Just because as the person who sort of had the original.
So the idea is like so last week when we have this discussion, there was a huge issue. Why? If we want to create these mining pools, the first issue is how are the rewards generated by the hotspots going to be redistributed? Why? The hotspots are in individuals' wallets. And now, like, we either have to depend upon the trust of the individuals to, like, pay their share when they join in the pool, or we want to, like, we have to tell the individuals, oh, you have to transfer your hotspot to the wallet of the pool. Now both of those things are like like very unfavorable thing. Why? Both of those rely upon trust. So instead, what we are trying to do is we are going to leverage the light hotspots coming into this sphere, which are cheaper in price and has a lower threshold of entry. And what we are going to be setting up is have like the people who want to like purchase these hotspots say, okay, contribute to the Pirate Radio DAO LoRa and mining pool by purchasing the light hotspot token. So effectively, that money that they are like paying into the Pirate Radio DAO is going towards the purchase of the light hotspot. So Pirate Radio DAO contract the manufacturers, get these light hotspots in like bulk. So one, it solves the issue of logistics. Why? Now instead of like thousands of people trying to get these things going all over the country, we actually get it in like like more local places in bulk. So it saves us a lot of like headaches of logistics. Second thing, people don't have to wait for months. Why? We manage like B2B basis with the manufacturers and get these things with like better like estimation of deliveries. And finally, once we get the hotspots, these can be like registered into these local mining pool wallets. So that way we solve that issue of like how to pool in all the earnings. And then since we have the control of the fleet, we can easily like without like any significant technical like developments, we can deploy these hotspots to like host locations. We can actually have local crews deploying these things, optimize the setup so they actually get above average earning rate. And now the rewards that are collected into the wallet, we actually distribute it based on a predetermined structure of reward percentage. So we are still talking about like I'm like pooling, I like what is the proper breakdown of the reward percentage should be. And after we determine on the best one, so hotspot owner who actually gets the token they actually get a certain share of the rewards that the pool gets. The people who's hosting, they get a certain share of the rewards. People who are deploying it, they get a certain share. And the best thing is, since we are setting up a DAO, the token that are given to each of the people that could be used to handle these rewards and everything. So it's kind of like, utilizing everything of a distributed ledger. And that's why, like, Keith like mentioned it, distributed mining pools. So it's a very clever concept that we can initially start without significant technical barriers.
Can I ask, did you guys decide on a platform? I know we had talked about using Solana before, but in terms of the tokens associated with this, or has that not been determined yet?
It has not been determined yet.
Okay, I have an Airtable compilation of about 100 different tokenomics articles that I was going to post, and it's odd after reading. I haven't read all of them. I'm not that crazy anyway. Reading through about a half dozen of the articles, it really apparently matters which platform you choose, and I do not know anything about this. So I'm going to throw it out there for other people to take a look at as well, because I haven't the first clue. But I do know that which you choose impacts what you can and cannot do, in terms of some of the things you're discussing right now.
Yes.
It's an open-ended comment that I'll post in the general, but that's the reason for it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
that's actually. Go ahead.
I think we would need to for some of these actions now is getting to the point where in DWork, which is the board that we use to manage a lot of the activity in the council. So for moving work through on pirateradioDAO.com and things like that, we're using it as a Kanban board, which is basically a Trello clone, but we log in with Discord, start putting some of these things in there, because there are actions and related actions and subtasks and all these kind of things, and
I'll add
those
the
questions.
choose a token. Yeah, I'll add a choose a token, and I'll add the resources that I pulled. I mean, I didn't pull them; I just stole them from somewhere else. But you get right.
We should have a board. We should set up a board specifically for these distributed mining model, and it would be great if we could get one for the hotspot location assessment tool as well. I think.
Yeah. Axon? What's your real name? I don't know.
Joe's good for short. Josiah, but yeah, I worked in a call center for a couple of years, and everybody called me just totally random shit all the time, so I just started going by Joe.
Okay. Well, whatever you prefer to be called is what I will call you. So you decide. But either way, I think that the three things that I heard today, all should be elevated to the point where they are what Joe said, what Prof said, what Keith said, all should be on the DWork board to dive into in greater detail, because all three of the things that were said are fitting right in line with what we're trying to do. So I can do the token question. I got that, like I said, resource manual that I understand 12% of maybe. So I could use some help. So yeah, that would be. I think that's a good next step, and I can pick a token to the list.
Cool.
I believe Kenny does have some insight into that as well, since he has been go-to person when it comes to platforms and stuff like that. So I don't know whether Kenny has any suggestions on what kind of platforms does he thinks would be suitable for something like that, as well as flexibility in doing these transactions and setting the initial the platform for minting tokens.
Yeah, I wouldn't say by any means. I appreciate the flattery, TK, but I wouldn't say by any means that I'm an expert on any of this. But I've certainly probably done the most playing around with at least the DAO on Solana. That said, it does seem like building on an L2 for Ethereum might be
a potential better option, especially because when we had talked to SuperDAO, it seemed like they're keen on doing Polygon before anything else. And so I was going to try to take some time to set up a test DAO on like an Ethereum testnet using Polygon, but haven't gotten around to it yet. So if anybody else wants to do that or has any insight, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I may put my fat thumbs on it this week as I've got a bit more time again since I'm not preparing for a show now. So I might have another little poke around on that this week. Take a break from writing. Yeah, that's great.
Quick question. Do we know any developers in the DAO? Are there any currently?
There are.
There are? Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Don't think in anything like Rust or Solidity. I know a few of the people have been looking at it, but we do have.
Yeah. I know some very, very basic Rust. Not enough to actually develop a platform on, but yeah. Solidity, I don't know. Does anybody know Solidity? No? Well, there's lots of great tutorials out there, so I guess we could get learning.
I don't think anyone who can do Solidity right now, if they're not holed up somewhere earning $500,000 a year,
That's the thing. I was about to say we should maybe try to get some people to join the Voyages from that background. Then again, back of my head, someone's like, oh, they are getting 75G bonus right now to join these up and coming blockchains. So
hey, services DAO man might be a better place to be. You never know.
yeah,
we'll
that's
see.
true.
If we do get to a point where we want to even hire somebody on like an hourly rate, I think having a really firmly outlined proof of concept for whatever it is that we're wanting to build will help us with budgeting. And I think there will be some tools at some point that in order to build them, we will need development. Yeah, the route that we go with that and how pretty we want to make it is probably the big sort of stopping point. But yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to have somebody on
How much abstraction?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be looking at users who are not used to using those kind of platforms, including me. I mean, until there were things like the link.ubnt.com tool, we didn't even have access to link planning. In the 802.11 wireless world, we were using rulers and things we printed off the internet. So yeah, the fact that we have any kind of wireless tools for predictive right now is good, but those are limited. Just quickly, because conscious of everyone's time, we've got a proposal in for the growth and community ship. I mean, we're already starting to communicate outbound. There's a proposal to the Mothership Council at the moment, basically that we create a growth and community ship, and its responsibilities will be to promote the DAO and grow the community high level. Those activities will include, community management, supporting the Discord, things like that. There's some things that we need to sort of write down and codify, sort of our daily activities, weekly activities, things like that. Me writing the agenda 20 minutes before there's a meeting is not a good way to proceed. Preparing for our weekly meetings, we need to be better than that. So, and there's if I'm busy and no one's posting ahoys on the Discord, things get a bit quiet. So I just want to maintain that momentum, and I think creating this part of the ship sort of allows for more people to be involved from the whole of the day, not just the council, and gets us some more activity. So probably put that up for a consent vote tomorrow to the Mothership Council in the Discord. But if anyone has any questions or comments or anything like that, fire away now. And of course, you can take a look in the forums.
I think to keep up the momentum and also attract more like-minded crowd. I think we might need to start like, having like regular, like, Twitter post, like, things like that, like whatever social media that we are going to have like, like regular posting. And I think, in my personal opinion at least, I think we can get the people who are in the community right now involved with it rather than just like, people from the mothership or whatever it is. Yeah, but having like a team like, who are in the community right now in our Discord, just put out a bounty out there. Oh, we are like putting together a team for this to get the news of like pirate radio out there. And that way, like like we can start like simple, like right now we have like random post going here and there whenever like we have time. But then once we like put together like a team, then we can actually like say like okay, let's start with like 3 posts at least per week, and let's see how it like goes through. Because that like regularity, like I'm not like a big like social media person, but what who people like I consult to actually advise us how to like handle social media, they what they always say is that regularity is like something people expect, and when they see that regularity, they are like more likely to like retweet things and kind of like share it, so that way like uh, we actually spread our like footprint further in like social media. So I think like maybe this week, if like everyone likes, we should like put out like some form, like something like that, see who are the people who would like to like join a team like that. That way they can like come up together. Like it doesn't have to be pirate radio per se when it comes to social media. If they can come up with a post that generally helps people in decentralized wireless network, boom, like why, we are a community trying to help people. So like things like that, just whatever it is, it's just like we need to broadcast out, this is something coming out of pirate radio, that way we start generating more interest.
Yeah, and that would be one of the first activities of the ship, would be to come up with a sort of calendar of what you do. That's kind of the first thing you do as a marketing team, is your communication calendar. So for better or for worse, I've been involved in that kind of thing for a long time. So I can help, put that together. But we definitely need that. And as you said, TK, it is consistency is the key, and that is the pillar as well. If you're not consistent,
Yeah, yeah. Like like I can contribute to like like if you want to like make like a technical like post or something like that when we have like our website set up, so that way like like social media team can I can post it on the, like the website, and social media team can use that as a post that week. So basically something useful that the community can read and learn something more from. So like like I have come to realize like those posts goes far more than like we just trying to like market something. So
and we've got a lot of content coming out of the community. That's what the wideband channel is there for. Is to spread the word of activity of the people who already active in our community. And there's a lot of people who already share a lot of content who are in pirate radio. So we should be working for them also. That's part of our mission. So yeah, cool. But yeah, anyone who wants to join, please do. Where everyone is going to be welcome on that ship, and basically if you want to help us spread the word, you will be welcome. But yeah, we'll hopefully be voting on that today, tomorrow. The next one is the decision process. This one is not even going to go through it now. There's a lot of things about consensus, governance, positive sum assessment is important that everyone should read. It's about how we make decisions as a group, how we assess the impact of those decisions, how we deal with conflict when it arises. These are all really important things. A lot of things that when people are starting DAOs, they don't do. So I don't know if anyone was aware of all the shit that went down with ENS a few weeks ago. There was all that. There's a lot of crisis, rightfully so, about the comments of one of the people who was one of the main delegates for voting, and some of the very unpleasant comments they made about LGBTQ people and various other things. And it caused chaos because they had no real way of dealing with it. as a group. And so it's important that while things are great, you talk about how you deal with things when they are not so great. So there is some stuff in there about how we assess the impact of our actions and how we deal with conflict. So I suggest everyone read it, because we need everyone's input, everyone's experience in workplace, organizations, whatever it may be, has a place in this in these documents. So council member or not, we do want to hear from everybody. So if you're watching this back in the future, tomorrow, later this week, please do weigh in. Hit us on Twitter, hit us on the Discord, whatever it is. This is something that's really important that we need the groups, the whole community's feedback on. We have 3 versions that are linked there.
We are going to publish it publicly, right? Or are we going to do it like
it's
what's
in
the
it's in the
process?
handbook right now. So the version 1.2. So the version 1.2 is in the handbook right now. That's the one I've put there.
Nice.
That's the one on pirateradioDAO.com. It's edited for clarity without any major changes to any of the content or anything that Caleb put in there in terms of. But it's just I've changed the order of things a little bit, but otherwise very little changed in terms of the original content. Version 1.3 is not in the handbook. It's my suggestions for changes, which we can talk about in council.
Do we need to put it as a proposal and pass it, or do you think we can just pass it
This one we need to go through consensus, because this one decides how we decide things. Decides how we decide things. Talking like squirrely down there for a minute. Been watching too much Letterkenny.
Are you pumped for Shorzy or what?
Give your polls a tug. Sorry, Letterkenny is basically the Canadian version of where I grew up. Except for hockey players, it's football players, soccer players, and rugby players.
You got 2 Canadians in here.
Awesome.
Great show. Yeah.
I love it so much.
They're doing one on Shorzy. It's coming out on Crave HBO.
Oh, a special one?
Oh, it looks no, he's getting his own show, spin-off show. And it looks fucking fantastic.
I love it. LLC. Adam TK. Sorry, you were going to say something about Letterkenny. Adam, I'm not going to stop you.
Letterkenny. All right, I'll find
it.
Yeah, the LLC. I gotta follow up with Jonathan and get us a calendar date so that I can get him queued up to talk to the group about what that looks like, what are the different options, and what's the risk assessment for cross-border stuff, for individuals, for little voyages, etc., insurance requirements, money transmitter licenses, all this stuff kind of just not brushed over, but just kind of covered as a survey and needs to be explained in greater detail by somebody with an actual degree.
Yeah, so basically so we are kind of last time in the council meeting we talked after Adam get that discussion through, then he would actually have better understanding about the whole layover of the land. So then we can decide upon what is the first legal entity we should actually create that provides protection for the people involved, at the same time give us enough flexibility to start the initial set of voyages. So right now we are waiting up until that happens, and right after that we can immediately switch gears to set whatever the whether it's LLC co-op, or whether it's a Delaware LLC, or Colorado LLC, or whether it's something completely different, some sort of a S corp or C corp outside the country. So we are kind of waiting to hear back after Adam's discussion.
Cool beans. And the last one we had on the list was Ukraine aid. Dennis, you got a minute to talk about what we've been talking about? He may or may not. He may be busy doing work. Basically, there's been some discussion. One of the grant proposals that we were putting together, Dennis and I, for.
I'm here. Sorry.
Right, you're right. Do you want to talk about the Ukraine stuff because you were more involved in the channel? I was busy watching the soccer while that
I
was
see how
happening.
it is. You're busy watching soccer while we're talking. Yeah, for sure. Let me get in my car because it's a lot warmer in here. So with everybody knows that Helium is coming out with 5G, and one of the projects that Jeremy has talked about in the past was a project that we wanted to do where we did a rapid deployment for 5G radios after like a hurricane or a tornado or any catastrophic event. So we were planning to kind of do the same with, we're still working out the details, but it looks like we're probably going to be doing Wi-Fi if this is the way to do it. So we would be using Helium hardware to deploy in right now Ukraine. Jeremy actually put it in a really good location in like the shelters to be able to put because right now all internet is down, and our overlord Elon has said that Starlink is available in Ukraine. So to use Starlink as the backhaul and Helium with Freedom Fi access points as the like the main, I would say front end, but like the actual hardware. And so we wanted to use Pirate Radio and get us involved in actually creating.
Yeah, so there's some conversations going on about
primer on there too.
Sorry, Jess, go ahead.
What was that, Jess?
I was gonna say I can shed a little bit more light too.
Yes, sir.
I spent the weekend and past week just doom scrolling on social media, and there are times in my life where I just feel kind of helpless in situations like this, and I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. And I feel privileged to be able to make these connections, and having heard Jeremy and Dennis about the grant proposal that they've been working together with the disaster zones, recovery, and rapid response, it just came to my mind immediately one day during staring at social media, like I want to do something. I don't know how to get involved. I'm always been some sort of a social activist in some way, but I've never had an opportunity that I saw could actually present a real world solution and be in a position where I could affect change for people who absolutely need it. And I know all of you are here today as Pirate Radio people, and some of you have skill sets that we can leverage and use, and knowledge that other people can utilize for us to help figure this out. So if anyone is interested or has any knowledge that they can share, we're absolutely interested in growing this conversation. But the project that they've been working on, this grant, has inspired me to want to try and activate a way to help people in need and an immediate action. And I would love to see a way that we can figure this out. Even if we just try, even if it doesn't work, we find out, we put together a plan to think about a way to help them restore communications, or even on border of their border parts of the country to restore communications. I just felt like this is something that was worth trying, and I feel everyone here is more than skilled and has the want and desire to be a part of a bigger group than themselves. And I'm going to do whatever I can to make these connections happen. We have different communication providers that have offered assistance to us as far as backhauls, and we need to reach out to other ones if anyone has contacts to them also, or wants to be a part of it. Feel free to reach out to me, or Dennis, or Jeremy. But the idea is to kind of accelerate some of the work that they're doing with the grant program and the resources of different hosting companies that can get us the equipment, distribution, finding people on the ground that can deploy it. So there's a lot of people I'm trying to reach out to now to see how I can facilitate these connections and contacts to see where this leads. But if anyone has any leads, I'd be more than happy to hear what you have to say, or if you want to get involved.
Jeremy, did you share with Jess that Ukraine DAO Discord? Or do you want me to do that? It looks like Jeremy's breaking up. Jess, did you see the Ukraine DAO? They're buying weapons for the Ukrainian army, but there are a lot of people in the channel that are on the ground and might be able to help in terms of deployment.
Okay. That'd be great. Yeah, I haven't looked at that, so if you can shoot me a link, I'd be happy to.
As with all things Discord related, and all things like vet the people involved like that. But the person who's actually at the top of Ukraine DAO is a real person. Is connected. She's connected to Vitaly. She's also connected to some of the folks from, ironically, the Crypto Coven, which is just another weird crossover. That's a very nice community as well.
Awesome.
But there are people on the ground in that channel discussing this exact issue that you're talking about, which is loss of communications. So you may be able to make some connections that way. And again, standard disclaimer, this is not advice to trust anybody, but I will say that this has been a pretty above board organization, at least in my interactions with them. So I'll share that link in the general channel. Proceed at your own risk, obviously.
If you don't mind sending it to me as well.
Yeah, I was just going to put it in the council chat right now.
Perfect. Because the thing is, if we get to the point where, like, we get, hey, you can have as many licenses as you want on whatever band you want, just come out here and do it. That's one of the hassles that we have. If they say, yeah, hey, the number one telecommunications in Ukraine wants to work with you guys, and we'll make it happen, then that solves a lot of our issues.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out how to weave in DY and Helium, and make this connection happen. I'm on the grants team, but I'm not a part of the bigger picture of what's going on. So I'm just having conversations and trying to figure out how to present this.
The thing to be is cognizant of the supply chain issues. We need the big question is around Wi-Fi. We need Boris to answer the questions on that.
I can reach out to him and find out more.
And we need to find out what hardware Wi-Fi platforms are needed. What system on chip he's coding. What is compatible, because basically what will need to happen is, here's the firmware package, put it on whatever hardware you can find, here's the list of hardware that's compatible. Because if it's like, it will only work on this hardware, you got to wait until we can ship you hardware, that's not it's not what you need. It's got to support both. You've got to be able to do both.
Now, question for that particular, kind of a deployment. Now, let's say, backhaul is coming from Starlink, which seems to be the easiest accessible one right now, if they have a Starlink receiver, setups. Now, as far as after the backhaul, what are the specific hardware you guys are looking into?
So we looked at cellular, and right now the available hardware. So if we were to use Freedom Fi gateways along with either the Freedom Fi and or small cell, that's in Europe you can use band 42, and that's a firmware switch on the radio. So that would require Freedom Fi to switch the radio to band 42 from band 48, which is what they are now. And it would require Ukraine's telecom regulator to allow use of that band. There is no one else using that band in Ukraine right now, so they could if they needed to. How useful is it? It's only useful to people who have phones that support that band.
Mm-hmm.
Most modern smartphones do, because it does have wide support in Europe, but the range is limited. 1,000 feet, it's a couple of miles outdoors to a phone maximum. It's not long range, right? It's not like 900 megahertz cellular that's going to get you connected over 10, 15 miles. It just isn't. So it's more local access kind of thing. It may be that, connecting Ukraine is best left to the people who are there, and the immediate need is more in the countries around Ukraine that are receiving huge amounts of displaced people who are going into camps where they're desperately trying to stay in touch with everyone, and they might be having problems there. That's always a choke point, because the systems that typically when you're building a temporary camp, a temporary shelter for people, the existing infrastructure isn't built to support the thousands and thousands of people that suddenly appear. It's built to deal with the few hundred that are there every day, right? And all of a sudden it's overloaded. So we may be better working in Poland, Romania, and surrounding countries like that, depending on who takes the most influx of displaced people. But horrible things happening to good people. But we can do something to help. We've also, ITDRC, while they're primarily a US organization, I haven't checked Slack today because I've been busy with this, but I will check in and see what the appetite is. The wider wireless networking world is very much interested in helping as well. So, yeah, I think there's definitely things we can do. And there's definitely ways that decentralized can help. And I think it's really comes down to, as much as possible, empowering the people on the ground to help themselves. So, when it comes to connecting camps, go in first and then work with the people who are there to get them.
In
get them connected and have them running their own connectivity.
Specifically in Ukrainian effort, are we thinking about sending in hardware, or do we know okay. So now there's few things right now. So yesterday I was actually on phone with our the area manager with DHL. So for Ukraine, all commercial quote unquote flights.
Oh yeah, that would be NGO stuff. That at that point, at that point, that's like NGOs are going to be able to. They're going to be dealing with getting that stuff in there. Yeah.
However, if you want to do something towards the displaced people, in the refugee camps and things like that, that's doable thing as far as logistics goes, because those countries still have open ports of entry. So that is in commercial logistics sites, that's for a fact I know it's doable. Ukraine one, yeah, definitely I think we need to have some high caliber people involved so we can get these things in. And as far as the specific communications thing, do if we are to set this up, do we know whether there's any way to get Starlink fast and get it send there fast?
I'm working on the Starlink side.
It's unknown at the moment, but yeah, almost trying.
Yeah. So my buddy said that works at Starlink. He said that the brain doesn't talk to the foot, meaning Elon, kind of didn't tell anybody, so they're kind of scrambling. So we kind of need to see how that's going to work out, but that shouldn't be too hard. And getting hardware into the country, I have friends. I'm from Romania, so I have friends out there who can, get it across the border. I have friends who's in Poland right now. He's a military guy. He'll be fine getting dirty and getting back in.
But yeah,
Okay.
solvable problems, but you know the issue in somewhere like Ukraine is to be careful of not doing more harm than good, obviously. And when it comes to cellular communications, you know, obviously the last thing you want to do is screw with what is already there.
Yeah.
Be very, very careful with regulated telecoms. But there's no reason why we can't offer and turn these systems around pretty quick. The hand portable stuff could be exceptionally useful. The good thing about it is inherently exceptionally secure. You can only access it if you've got a physical SIM. That's something that is quite important in these. It's not completely secure. There's no such thing. But the point is, it's not. It is far more secure than a lot of other things, and because it's decentralized, it adds an extra layer of encryption. So you know, it's doable. But there's a lot of questions yet. But something we're working on, and if anyone has any help they can offer, any contacts, keep them coming. Hit us up in Discord. Reach out. We're
Well, if you guys need like any like off grid like like powering solution, something like that, yeah, you guys can always like hit me up. Yeah, we are like like I personally like willing to like lend like any hands like but this equipment wise, getting stuff like as close as we can to like to Ukraine to set things like yeah, like anything like off grid related, you guys can like shoot me up. Like I'll be
Yeah.
more than happy to help with that.
I mean, I think we're going to see. Unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of people, you know, streaming. There's been a lot of people leaving Ukraine, so I think we're going to see a lot of requirement to get people connected as they come over the border. So I think that's probably going to be one of the areas that most help is needed, and that fits right into the mission of pirate radio. So
Yeah, yeah. Let me know like any of those things. Like we have like our company have clearance to like send batteries and things like that overseas as well. So which is like a nice thing because many
a big
companies
thing.
can't actually send. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that let me know like if there's like any specific things like that way that would work like that you guys think would be vital. Yeah, since you guys are like already know what's like the situation. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to help with anything.
Yeah. Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. Well, I got to reach out to Anne from Bobcat, and we'll reach out to Boris, and then we've got to get you those power requirements so we can help us out on this social build out. And
Yeah, let me
look
know
for
what
help.
we need for what's the best way to set up comms for them, and I'll reach out to Boris.
Yeah,
Easiest
yeah.
right now to have, if we had it like tomorrow and be able to put it together, would be
I can't hear you, broke out.
sorry. I said if we put it together, like, and we had all the hardware and Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Wi-Fi,
guys heard that.
Wi-Fi 6. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't even have to be Wi-Fi 6, just basic Wi-Fi. Doesn't. And if
Make me a list of material and requirements, and I can relay that information. Or we
Cool.
can set up a call together.
Yeah.
Probably the
I'll
best
have
idea.
time. I'll have time tomorrow. Next week's a lot calmer for
Okay.
me. Most of my team are all off in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress. So
I should have some time.
quite a week. Alrighty. Is there anything else? I missed anything? Any questions? Long one this week, folks. 2 hours. We did not do it in an hour this week. A lot to talk about. A lot of good stuff, though. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you all so much for your input. Give you yourselves a big round of applause, and I hope you all have a delightful week. And yeah,
Thank
ahoy.
you. Bye,
Take care,
everybody.
guys. Ahoy.
Take care.
Yeah,
Take
yeah.
care.
Boy, have a good evening. Bye.